and this is the Teaching and Learning Committee meeting for the School District of Waukesha Board of Education. To begin, can I verify that the meeting's been properly posted?
Yes.
Thank you. Our first item of business is approval of the Teaching and Learning minutes from the February 6th meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved. To approve.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Mrs. Koenig, seconded by Mr. Zenobia. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes 5-0. Next, we have an opportunity for public comment. Has anyone signed up to speak tonight? Okay, thank you. Moving into our content areas, we're going to start with literacy tonight. So we will begin with a discussion on the kindergarten through fifth grade reading curriculum.
Well, we have a team coming up here. So Melissa Yao, Director of Elementary Learning, and a few others. I'll have her introduce everyone. Here to talk about literacy for K through 5. Last month, we did talk about Act 20, which impacts some of our work around reading, but they're here to talk a little bit more specifics.
All right, good evening. I am Melissa Yao, Director of Elementary for K through 5th grade. Tonight, I have my colleague Dee Garcia, Director of Multilingual and Middle School, and then Emily Freeman, who is the Elementary Literacy Coordinator. So we are here tonight to talk about Phase 1 and the curricular review for the area of elementary literacy. I created a video to go over a little bit of the history of why we are sitting here today. So I won't go into too much of that, just wanted to remind of a few things. That in 2013, before we even had today's curricular design process, is when we began with our homegrown units of study that included language and reading. Then, for the 2021 school year, we implemented our new phonics program that was adopted in the prior May. And then in the last school year, 22-23, we implemented our new writing program that was approved the May prior. So that leads us here to today, and just want to go over our timeline for revision for a comprehensive literacy program, which means that we are wanting to look at a resource that would be all in one versus having, here's your writing, here's your reading, here's your phonics, so it's all kind of separated throughout the day, that it's going to be one whole connected resource that would include the 9 areas of science-aligned practices, which includes phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, phonics, building background knowledge, vocabulary, instruction and comprehension, fluency, and writing. So in December and February, we went through a vetting process of curricular resources. We looked to make sure we used ed reports. We looked at building background knowledge. We looked at the national list of other states who have similar requirements, such as Act 20, and what curriculums are being used out there. We looked to see what else comes in English and in Spanish, because as we know, we have a very rigorous and exceptional dual language program also here in the School District of Waukesha. And over most recent years, we have been doing an excellent job of making sure that not only in our monolingual classes, but in our dual language classes, have that same level of rigor and curricular resources. So those are some of the things that we looked at to narrow down to 5 then resources that we wanted to take through this first stage of the curricular process. And we used a rubric to evaluate those that we'll talk about a little bit later. And then that led us to 3 resources that we are going to, actually tomorrow, very big day. We have a long day of the 3 vendors coming in and presenting to a very large group made up of student services, coaches, ESL teacher leaders, principals, directors, coordinators from across all domains, which we've created another rubric for that group to go through. You'll hear about that later. And then tomorrow evening, we have invited all K-5 teachers, coaches, psychologists, special ed teachers, anyone that wants to come, to also then come tomorrow night to go through these 3 resources as well, using a rubric to help us finalize what will be that final resource. Also, last week, we went on visits to see 2 of the resources in action. We didn't have time to get the 3rd one in because school, so you're trying to work with other districts too of getting in. So we went and visited Benchmark Advance, and we went and visited Amplify CKLA. So we had the opportunity to see both of those in action as well. We are here tonight talking about the first phase, and then we'll be coming back to you next month for discussion of what that final resource is with potential for action that night. And if need be, then we will be coming back again in May.
Okay. We are just so excited and have spent about 21 hours as a group looking through the 3 curricular resources that you see on your screen. The first one is the Amplified Core Knowledge Language Arts Curriculum, in Spanish called Caminos. The second one is one you are familiar with. It is also aligned with our current phonics and writing curriculum, Benchmark Advance. In Spanish, it's Adelante. And then the final one is Savas My View Literacy. Yes, it is the younger version of the Savas My Perspectives at middle school, called Mi Visión Lectura. These 3 resources were selected because they met the criteria for 3 of the main gateways that Ed Reports looks at. The first is text quality. The second is the building of background knowledge for students. And then finally, usability. So each of these curricular resources meets those gateways. We are excited that we have been able to see all of the curricular resources physically as well as their digital versions. We've spent several hours going through the characteristics and quality of the text, the usability for teachers, and the components within which we are expected to meet through Act 20.
So you've heard a little bit about this, but our vetting process and how we narrowed our choices. When we started, we looked at other states to see what they already had on their lists, states that have similar bills. We also looked at what is currently green on Ed Reports, and then we gathered 5 different curriculums, and by that time, the Early Literacy Council had come out with their rubric that they created that is aligned to those 9 components that Melissa talked about. That is a 15-page rubric, and that is what we used as we went through those 5 curriculums to really look at what those components, not only are they present in the curriculum, but to what depth, what does their scope and sequence look like, how does that develop over time, while also looking at the digital components that are available, the quality of the Spanish materials that are available, what about the student materials, the mentor texts, the ease of navigation of both physical copies and digital systems, assessments, and parent resources. We really wanted to see what was available, making sure that it was science aligned and that it was going to be a strong resource for all of our stakeholders. That initial team, you can see, was made up of multiple directors. We had representation from student services as well as multilingual and different, lots of different coaches and people who do different jobs within the district to make sure we were reaching all areas. So then our next steps, Melissa talked about tomorrow being a big day for us. We have a group of just over 30 coming together during the day to hear those presentations from the vendors. And then so far we have over 50 teachers that have RSVP'd for our evening open house, which we are really excited about to get feedback from all stakeholders that would be utilizing these resources. And we're going to be collecting feedback in a similar fashion from both groups. In our morning group that is going to have the vendor presentations, we're asking them the same questions that we already have analyzed these resources to know that they meet the 9 components that are required in Act 20. All 3 of the resources do that. We are now looking for feedback from the bigger group to think about ease of navigation, how this resource will support you in meeting the needs of your students, how the assessments, will that help you plan your instruction, all of those pieces. And so we have very specific questions that both groups will be answering, first through a note-taking form. I have that linked on there so you can see the specific questions, and then they'll be inputting that into a Google form that really asks them to answer yes or no. Does this resource meet this expectation or not? As well as asking, would you find this resource suitable for adoption within the school district? And then a space for them to add their specific comments.
And with that, now you can talk to us. What questions do you have?
Carrie?
Thank you. This is a lot of work that has gone on in a very short amount of time. So I commend you on that. I think it's amazing just to see the flow of progress that we've done, and this really started, I would say, last summer. Is that fair? Was where we picked up? And unlike other curricular resources, we are not planning to pilot, which is why we are so aggressive in the approach just based on Act 20, and the steps that we're taking is to come in, view 3 resources, really talk through that, and have a tangible touch and feel. Fair?
That's fair, and we've also been working with CESA 6, and a few districts have been moving towards more of a process that we did where you have teachers come in and vet the resources, so you're getting a larger stakeholder approach. Some of the reasons of that is because when you're piloting, sometimes it can be disruptive and different pieces, so we did seek out some input and look at what could be some, other type of piloting type options for getting teacher input of seeing the resources.
Yeah, and that leads into my next question is for the ability to touch and feel and use the resource, how much time will they have over the next couple days to really experience that?
So they will be given digital access to all 3 tomorrow night, and we have a lot of materials here from all 3 of these vendors, so they will be able to see all the components of these resources tomorrow as well. So they will be able to dig into the hard copies and look at them as well as the digital pieces. So we have it open tomorrow night for 2 hours for people to come.
When are we asking for their vote on what they prefer?
We're asking them tomorrow to fill out that
So we're
sheet.
asking them to preview, pick, and vote, and then next month would be a presentation for, let's get this ready to be implemented.
Yes.
Okay. So the same question I had when we were talking through with Act 20, how are we feeling about moving this on then with professional development, rollout, timing, and making sure that there's somewhat of a comfort. It's not going to be perfect. I mean, with this escalated timeline, this is going to be a challenge, but just taking that into consideration, what are the plans for that?
Yeah. Obviously, the more time we have to plan, the better, but that will be one piece that we'll be coming back next month with a implementation plan of when professional development would happen, what all is a part of that, and looking at it in year 1, year 2, year 3. So those pieces would be coming next month based on what we.
Okay, and I just have one other, we talked a lot about, so I know DPI released the 20 recommended pieces or groups, right? Benchmark was on it, which I know that was a celebration to some degree for us, but also stating that our job is to really make sure that we're finding the best resource that will
Correct.
move our children along, regardless of what that reimbursement may look like.
Yep, and that official list hasn't come out yet. Right now, the Early Literacy Council has their list, DPI has their list. In the next 3 to 4 days, we should get what the official list is, but we are moving ahead, as you recommended last month, to just make sure we get all the feedback that we can prior to that.
I think the ultimate goal is it's best for the students and our staff regardless of what that final list looks like.
Yeah, and we feel like through the vetting that we did, we used the same rubric. We feel that all three of the resources, My View, CKLA, and Benchmark Advance, are high quality. They meet us being able to have a science-to-line approach and would carry us well in those 9 areas of instruction for our students.
Okay. That's all I have. I want to end with thank you. I know this is a tremendous undertaking in the timeline that you're doing it. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
I just had a question.
Go ahead.
I know you mentioned that all three of them pretty much meet the standards and will be quality resources. After looking at all three, what are some of the differences, I guess, between them that you've noticed? Or, I mean, are there any that are, not I would say game changers, because you said all three would be great, but any that have, any of the nuances that you've picked up that one might be stronger than the other in something that, vice versa?
I think one key piece, and this sort of answers your question, it's the same across all three, but that's going to be a big shift from where we're coming from, is the knowledge building piece. There's been a lot of research, a lot of the science of reading, you hear about phonics, which we know is super important, but knowledge building is really important. And so that is a really exciting piece that has stood out to us in all three of them. And they all do it in a little bit of a different way, but really bring that content to the forefront so that you are meeting the reading and writing and speaking and listening standards while you're learning content, which really serves your vocabulary building, serves your comprehension, and it leads you to be able to read higher level text because of all of that exposure. And so that is going to be an exciting shift that I think has really been something we've enjoyed as we've dug into all of them, just looking at the different themes. One thing that's different among them is the way they go about it. One of the resources, every grade level is in the same strand at the same time. So everybody's doing their life science content building at the same time, but it builds across the grade levels. So there's a lot of benefits to that of things you could do school-wide or that you could be learning from each other. Others, the content and knowledge spirals, but at different times of the year. So that's just one of the things that comes to mind.
I think I would add, I know Erica Yas is in the audience today, but one of the things that she recognized as a science specialist is the deep conceptual knowledge that children can build over time. So they're not learning topics newly for the first time, but are learning topics more deeply over time, which is a very key characteristic. I can speak from the point of view of serving multilingual learners that the publishing companies have caught up in many ways with providing scaffolds right there on the page for teachers to use to ensure that all children have access and successful interaction with the content on the page. That has not always been the case. One of the resources definitely shines in that area, and it's something that we're familiar with using, and specifically so because of those scaffolded pieces that help teachers to reach every learner in the classroom.
I would say another piece that we really looked at in how we got to these three resources is making sure that there are, scaffold supports for students, but also for teachers. We know that we're going to be bringing in learning for teachers as well, but having a resource that will also include some professional development right there for you, whether it be the definition or here's a video that you can watch and see, how it's done. Here's some background of why that's important. Those were things that we looked at to make sure that we're best supporting our teachers, as well as, the usability of the resource, from the hard copy component that teachers will have, as well as digitally being able to access and move around in those components.
That's great, and I love the teacher, support too as well, so important. And I'm happy that all three of you are comfortable with all three of them.
Yeah.
So you've seen the highlights, and all the important things are in all three of them.
Yeah.
Good to know.
I have a question about the format of the materials with the with the writing piece, we were excited about the consumables and the backpack materials, so it wasn't always digital.
Yep.
How did these three stack up in that regard?
So all three of them, the student materials are primarily, students have a workbook. So in two of the three resources, they are workbooks. There's like 2 workbooks that students would have. In Benchmark, they are the unit by unit that you have seen for phonics and writing. So that is still in there for theirs. So they're by unit versus having, half of a year in a workbook. They are the very colorful, more magazine type style. They do vary a little bit, some of the materials as far as their print color and what they look like and engaging. And I'm, trying not to say too much today because if, anybody's watching, I don't want to sway people any one way or the other. But there are some differences that way, but the majority of what students have is the hands-on piece materials in there. Most of the digital pieces are for the educators to access and use.
So for the most part, like with the writing pieces, we would be purchasing materials that would be consumed by the students in that
Correct.
school year?
Yes.
And then we would replace them with
And
new
then,
ones?
yes, that's part of, so we have quotes already from 2 of the 3 vendors. I expect the other one probably by the end of the week. But the consumable piece is a part of all of that for a number of years. So every year it would be replaced. The consumables are for each individual student to have something of their own, then to be able to, take home and use.
Just a follow-up question then on the phonics component, since that's one that's been in place for a bit, and I think it's helped nudge some of the reading scores, but obviously hasn't made the splash that we're looking for, but it's an important part of it. We're going to be looking at, I guess, reconsidering that here pretty soon. Have you considered whether we want to get all these materials coordinated from a timeline perspective? Because it seems like we're going to keep chasing this if we don't do that.
So what would happen, all 3 of these resources are comprehensive. So the phonics and writing would be a part of it. So if we go with a resource that isn't Benchmark, our current phonics and writing, we would no longer do. We would be doing phonics and writing within this comprehensive resource. So the teachers would all be working from one system that all interacts together. Benchmark, Advance, the phonics is the same with some, of course, there's some upgrades since we originally started, some deeper lessons in phonemic awareness, but the phonics is the same. The writing is a little different in the fact that it is a little bit more around structure. There are a few similarities to that, but it would not be that we're having to still use this phonics, this writing, and now we have this other new piece. It would all be comprehensive together.
So our writing program was approved in 2022.
Correct.
And it was extremely expensive.
Yes. So with Benchmark, that option is they would be working with us to, anything that we have left on any of those adoptions could roll into the others. And then we'd have to, if Benchmark Advance is not what we go with, we would have to look and talk about what that would be for the writing piece.
So that's on your radar, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, that was,
Yes. The money piece is
for.
always,
yeah. I mean, it was a smart investment. It was just a substantial investment. I think
Yes.
that's what I was getting at. When we have these things that are kind of out of sync with each other, it makes it difficult sometimes to make those strategic changes. So that
Very.
would be to our advantage if we can work that out.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that would put everything then in one timeline and
Great, thank you. Anything else? What I would appreciate, especially after you have the meeting tomorrow, if you're coming back in April with a request for some sort of an action, that we would have some communication about how to get our hands on the materials as well that you're going to recommend, just so that we're not.
Yes, as
Coming in
soon as
cold.
we know, we will, as we have before, we would send you all digital access and then have the hands-on materials here for you to be able to come take home or to come and look. So we'll send you that as soon as we know that, hopefully by the end of the week or beginning of next week.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, good luck tomorrow.
Thank you. It's an
Thank you.
exciting day. You're welcome to come if you would like to. But all right.
Thank you all. All right, we are moving on to science. We have our high school science team back, and they are looking for potential action tonight on the recommended biology, chemistry, and physics resources.
So we have our team back, Laura Ryan, who's Director of High School Teaching and Learning, and Erica Yaus, who's K-12 Science Coordinator. So thank you guys for coming back. Laura's going to be an all-star tonight because she has several presentations tonight. So thank you, Laura, for being here for multiple topics.
You're welcome. I'm going to let Erica do all the work on this one. So if you remember, I was here last month talking about the Inspire Science series that we are looking to adopt for biology, chemistry, and physics at all 3 high schools. Just as a quick reminder, we don't currently have a resource for any of those courses, so this would be a really big support for our students and for our staff. We wanted to make sure that it was following all of the important models that we know are best for science education, that they are 3-dimensional, it's a coherent storyline, and that it's a phenomena-based and engineering practices. So it's the Inspire Chemistry, Biology, and Physics. So our biology and honors biology, chemistry and honors chemistry and physics courses will be using it. Our AP Physics 1 course has their own textbook, so they aren't part of this adoption. And then for our costs, it's with materials that we would need to buy to make sure that we have the appropriate lab equipment for all 3 of these courses at 3 high schools for 8 years. It'll be about $293,000 overall for that 3-year span. Any questions?
You said 3 years.
8
Yeah,
years.
8 years.
8 years, 3 high schools.
Got it.
3 courses.
Yep, okay. That's challenging my math. So obviously, when we look at numbers like this, these are major investments in curriculum, but if we think about the number of students, you had kind of plotted out 400 per class, a few, or per year, a few fewer in physics because of the AP component, but I think we're talking about somewhere around $30 per student per class is what it works out to. So it's a significant investment, but it really does spread itself out over the course of several years, so. But it's great that we have the capacity.
Yeah, and having something that would be 8 years long allows for teachers to really get good at the program and understand how to use it, so we're not just constantly switching, and we can invest in the knowledge of understanding how to use it as well.
So periodically, we hear that teachers don't necessarily want to be told to use a specific curriculum. In this case, especially as it relates to science, it seems like that takes a lot of the burden off of them. But what is the sentiment from the teachers involved in the planning and piloting of all this?
So the way this textbook is kind of laid out is this is the content delivery system. This is where all the information comes from. It's where we teach students how to read this high-level scientific text. We all have the same anchoring phenomena when we go through this. We all have the same common assessments, but teachers do have freedom with how they're teaching it in terms of the students in front of them and the lesson planning and the strategies. We all do have the same common labs, so that's where they feel that there's that balance of we're together, but we have freedom to work with the students that are in front of us.
Thank you. Carrie, go ahead.
just a clarifying one on the lab costs. So 30,000 over the 8 years, and then I just wonder about replenishments and inflation and supplies and shortage, supply demand. Do we have any guidance as to commitment and guaranteeing about having adequate supplies for all the labs?
Yeah, so this 30,000 is mostly for equipment. Each building has their own science department budget where their consumables and the things that are used every year are paid for in that department, which is already something they're already doing. So that exists and it shouldn't be an issue in terms of continually funding. It's just the big upfront cost that we're going to pay for.
Good, thanks. I don't know why that confused me, but it did. Thank you.
Mrs. Koenig?
I had a chance to look through the 3 different teacher edition of the text. I glanced over the physics and the chemistry, but I really honed in on the biology, and I really like the format. I mean, there's a lot of resources there for the teachers, I thought. I could see it being very beneficial. Again, it's a teacher's craft. When a teacher teaches, that's where the magic happens. But I just appreciate, it's all right there, and there's no running around looking for things. And, they can be as creative as they'd like, but the resources are right there. And I really liked the format of the book. I liked the resource, myself personally, so
Thank you.
I like.
Yeah, I would agree. Dare I say it was at least somewhat enjoyable to crack the seal on new textbooks and read through them. And I was reminded why I was interested in physics so much in high school, and then to see some of the overlap between the different subjects, physics and chemistry in particular, on atomic structure and nuclear fission and all that, which I studied in the Navy and nuclear power program. So anyway, one thing I noticed about the format or the layout was the claim evidence reasoning. And I was curious if that was at all a factor in choosing these texts. I don't know if other texts have that, but I know that's kind of a staple of the district teaching. I remember both my daughters having to write that way in multiple classes that they did papers for. So I was just curious about that aspect of the books.
Yeah, that is a staple in pretty much every science text now. It's the way we write in science. Our middle school curriculum has it as part of it, and our upper elementary science curriculum does as well. So it was important that it had it, but we did not find any resources that didn't use that as their main writing strategy.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So you're looking for an action tonight. We have all 3 courses in front of us. We could take them as a group unless I'm not hearing any concerns about them. So I'd be looking for a motion to approve the Inspire Science series for high school biology, chemistry, and physics as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Kozlowski,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Borowski. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to cover all the subjects tonight. This is exciting. Moving on to social studies. Discussion on government and economics resources. We have
Take it away,
Mr.
Laura.
Millard and Mr. Ross. Welcome.
So I have 2 content experts with me today. Mr. Corey Ross from Waukesha South. He is teaching American government. And Mr. Carl Millard from Waukesha West, who is teaching econ there. So I'm going to start with just kind of a quick overview of where we've been and what we've done, which you may have seen in or heard in my recording already. And I think you're going to hear a lot of similarities to what Erica just talked about as well in hers. So again, in 2021, we began phase 1 of the curriculum design process, establishing that there was certainly a need for new social studies resources as we had no content resource and we were really using homegrown. Not on here necessarily, but just again, a recap, then in 2022, 21-22, Phase 2 began, and they began piloting several different resources and eventually came to the board and adopted new curricular resources for the courses that you can see up there. So Human Geo, AP Human Geo, World History, AP World History, US History, and AP Government. So it really was all of the required classes 9, 10, and 11. Obviously, we were in need of materials that better align to an inquiry approach. Wisconsin had developed new social studies standards, really intertwining the 6 strands, and honestly looking for something a little more rigorous for all of our students. Last year then began year 1 of implementation of those courses, which brings us to this year, which is year 2 of implementation of those courses. However, we also then we kind of went backwards and did Phase 2 to take a look at the government and the econ text. So I cannot necessarily speak to why government and econ weren't included back in 2 years ago. My best guess is limitations on the budget. And so now AP and government, we were asking to get a curricular resource for those. In October of this year, we came to the board as a team and asked to implement 2 resources, in econ and 3 resources in government. Since that time, through October, November, December, and January, our teachers have been piloting those resources, at least 1 unit in each of those classes across all 3 high schools. So we had about 7 teachers piloting these sources. Which brings us to today. After, however, each of those pilots, after they piloted each of the resources, our 7 social studies teachers came together from the 3 high schools and we debriefed around the following. So for example, after we piloted TCI or after we piloted McGraw-Hill, we had the teachers talk about their noticings, their strengths in the book, and their wanderings around the book. And so the 3 teachers who were government teachers had that discussion and just kind of talked through it. They looked at student feedback, and to be honest, the student feedback wasn't the most valuable tool. It was not what we would call constructive criticism sometimes, but more focusing on the technology glitches of the system than anything else. We also then had the teachers, once they liked one resource and they reached consensus, complete the DPI materials review tool or the rubric that DPI has for us for the social studies resources. And it goes through 3 basic criteria. Does it align with the Wisconsin standards for social studies? Does it provide a coherence and rigorous curriculum content for students, and are there good instructional supports in each of these texts? Both of the resources that we recommended met the criteria of very well aligned to Wisconsin social studies and general resource expectations using this DPI rubric. So we are recommending a resource of the government book from BFW, The Stories of a Nation, Bedford, Freeman, and Worth. This is, as you remember, the same text last year that was approved for AP Government. This does align to the course framework perfectly. One of the things that the AP teachers have told us is how easy it is for students to use, and the readability of the text, which we were concerned about at first, really is supported by the graphics, by the subheadings, by the glossary in the text, and really follows the note-taking process we teach here in the school district of Waukesha. In comparing the same topics presented in the text, I think that's a typo, should not say Wilson, should say BFW text presented opinion-forward language versus the fact-forward language. And ironically, the student feedback continued to be very positive around this text and really actually specifically referred to its rigor and believed it was more engaging than the other texts that they piloted. A recommendation for econ is the McGraw-Hill text, so similar to the series that science is adopting. This one, again, aligns to the course content, supports all of the Wisconsin state standards for social studies, was written by an economist, the teachers who piloted felt it provided a depth of the other resource. TCI did not at this level, and thought that it was more rigorous and a much more engaging text, again, than the other resource that they piloted. This one does have read aloud, actually both texts. The government has the ability to read it aloud as well. And this one has a full Spanish translation and Spanish texts to go along with it. Just one thing I alluded to was the student feedback. Again, you'll see that there are students who responded to the surveys when asked that the examples provided in the text are relevant to me as a learner and apply to the world around me. 3s and 4s, this is the best of what we got from students, really. But I have to read this quote out loud because it does not sound like a high school student. This is by far the most accessible textbook of them all. It is not too difficult, has the most options for accessibility, and is thus the most easily used of the textbooks. Textbooks are meant to convey information clearly and concisely without bias, and that is exactly what this textbook does. It gives all sides, includes images, and explains them properly. All words are explained in the text and have alternate explanations when tapped for more clarity. It is also more clearly divided up, making it easier to find what you are looking for specifically. And Mr. Ross can confirm that that was a student who wrote that.
I can confirm that, yes.
And econ, similar ratings from the students. Really, there wasn't much difference with the ratings from students. And the text was pretty straightforward, had lots of visuals, helped with understanding. As we go forward over the next couple of months, and if this is approved for adoption next month, we will begin a professional development plan to implement this resource for year 1 next year. At this point, I will be turning over this work to Amy Unti Runnels, the Humanities and Literacy Coordinator, and she will be working with the teams to start a curriculum review process of the curriculum and start implementing this. So first thing we do is have some professional development with the book vendors, which we actually already did engage in before piloting with each one of these. Both of them did a small professional development before the pilot. They are both offering to come back this summer or very early fall when we begin school. We will then begin some spring and summer curriculum writing time. Teachers are given time in August and February to collaborate around the implementation of materials and how they align to the framework. For government, we will be collaborating with the AP government teachers to begin using their syllabus as the foundation. But obviously, much is going to need to be distilled down because that is a year course where this one is only a semester course. And then each building uses weekly PLC time, and then there would also be monthly PLC time where the high schools come together and collaborate around the implementation of this resource, start talking about how students are doing on the formatives, reaching consensus to the common assessments, analyzing the data through those. And then, of course, we would continue to make adjustments and provide the support needed throughout the year. So I feel a little fortunate to go after the science because my numbers look a lot smaller than those numbers. Again, because it is a semester course. We're looking at the cost for the government to be around close to $43,000. In econ with McGraw-Hill, about $45,000. They are both 6-year licenses. There is a 7- and 8-year license option with McGraw-Hill as well. Both of them would provide teacher editions, access to assessments. We would be getting at least one class set for each building, and then the digital licenses as well. And that is it, and we'll open it for questions.
Mr. Zenobia.
Well, I am happy to see that we found a government text without bias, so that is fantastic. I would like to hear from Mr. Ross and Mr. Millard on your thoughts on the texts and, why you like them, why you think the students will like them, and just some feedback in that regard.
I can go first. I like this text because it is incredibly deep. The amount of information that we have with this text as opposed to the other book that we piloted, there's no comparison. The amount of primary source material that's in here blows the other book out of the water. The lesson plan ideas that's in this text, they're robust. I have 24 years experience teaching economics, so I already come in with some content basis. So I don't need the lesson plans per se, but you always have to think about what about the next person that will fill my room. Staffing, things change, people come and go. I could give this very confidently to whoever might do my job in the future. They're going to be just fine. I could not say that about the other textbook. Students, honestly, some students like the other one, some students like this one. It's a high school textbook and they're high school kids. It's kind of a wash that way, I'll be honest.
I did ask Mr. Millard, I am no econ major or minor or anything. So I said, walk me through it. Why am I going to like this? Why would a student like this better? And it really is very visually appealing. And it has a lot of subsections and guidance for the students. And just, again, he keeps talking about the depth and the wealth of information here. I really do just visually see that.
I just had a follow-up to that. So what did the students, I'm curious, what did the students who liked the other book better than that one, what were their thoughts on it?
It's all about how it presents on the iPad screen.
Okay.
They like the flow of how things were put together. This one had some extra spacing between paragraphs. I mean, it's a really minor thing.
Okay. Thank you.
There are plenty of things that I could say about this textbook, and I'll just talk about a few of them. First, that student who was talking about accessibility, I remember them in particular talking about, if you look at the paragraphs in this book, and I know that many of you have seen this textbook yourselves, but if you look, it'll explain a concept, it'll explain it thoroughly, it'll explain it until it is done explaining it, and then it'll move on. It doesn't drift, it doesn't go on to other topics, it explains it to the point where the student is going to be able to get it, and then moves on to the next concept. It's incredibly well organized in that manner, whether it be headlines, whether it be subheadings. It's very consistent in that the organization is strong and accessible. Of course, we talked about some of the visuals, some of the graphs. I think graphs, pictures, whatever it might be, those are going to prove very useful for me as a teacher, as well as for my students. Couple more things that I found with this textbook. Of course, this is a rigorous textbook. This is meant for AP government students. AP, of course, being likely a lower level, college level course, right? So something freshman year of college. I remember one of my students in particular telling me after we had worked through this stuff for a couple days, because it was my concern of, is this a good fit for a non-AP classroom? I know this textbook works in AP. Is this a good fit for non-AP? And they said, this content we were just talking about was really interesting. I found it to be really unique and engaging, and all my students said that. Across the board, my students were very much in support of that. They found that we could dive a little more deeply into content than we could with the other textbooks. In that regard, it's incredibly rigorous, but in a good light. I think it shows that we as teachers are serious about having a rigorous government program, one that's going to help inform them for those next steps that they take. And it also is going to show that to families and stakeholders in this whole process. The final thing for me, and it's how I kind of distilled down this book into one idea, is I think this book is the perfect balance of the art of teaching and the science of teaching. For me, it gives me the opportunities to do what I need to be able to do, what activities I think would be best, what activities our AP Gov teachers and some of our other teachers think will work for our students. It gives us that ability to have some of that freedom and to really give things to our students in ways that make sense, and provide ways that we can teach them some of this rigorous content. But it also has the science, right? It provides me with the resources that I need to be the best possible teacher that I can be in this scenario. I think we were all very impressed with this textbook. And we're very excited to be working alongside the AP government team, some of the other curricular developers that we're going to have, because we really think that the potential for using this textbook in a junior, senior gov course could be very, very positive for the district.
Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Ross, because of the direction. So the last time we reviewed this book, we spent a lot of time talking about it, which is not my intent tonight. But I do want to reflect on what we had talked about when we were first going between the differentiate between AP and regular, and how we either slow the course down. So they're obviously not getting through the entire book as you would get through within the AP section, but still challenging the kids. And so I just want to understand and make sure I understand like the different approaches, or are we allowing them to grow as fast as the class can go, depending on how the class is doing? But really kind of break down the difference between using the same book for two classes.
Absolutely. There are a couple differences between our AP government and our regular government. Biggest one being we're only a semester. AP Gov, of course, is being a year ending in that AP exam. That was a big question that we had initially was, can this textbook work in a semester format? This textbook and its teacher's editions do offer a pacing guide for that, so we know in the AP sense it's possible, but the biggest thing for us was, can this content be approachable and accessible for our students in the non-AP setting? While we worked with it, we found that at times, maybe there were some things where I, as the teacher, can give further instruction, but that is what we are there for. That is our duty and our goal as teachers, is to provide that instruction. We did not find that it was excessive instruction or that it took away from any of our goals. Assessing the curriculum that we have now and kind of the basis that we have set up for what we currently do in our government courses, the structure we have, we may not get through every single thing that AP government does, but we'll certainly be able to get through all of the strong points that we currently go through in our semester gov course.
And I guess I would just like to add to that is, I think you just said that they do provide us a semester pacing guide as well, so that's nice. We are completely aware that we are not going to be able to cover everything that AP covers, so part of our process is going to be, what do we cut out? I think one of the skills that we would like to start to incorporate into our grade levels, econ and government classes, is more like the document-based writing that they do in those classes, and some maybe like free response questioning. But we are not going to be able to do the deep dives and the analysis of the documents that the AP classes do.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Mr. Millard, we have not, I don't believe this committee has had a chance to review that book, so econ, so I would like to get a copy of that. But I'll be interested in seeing, similar to what we've done in the past, the kind of the tentative syllabus as to how this goes and what we're doing. Obviously, econ is going to be something I'm fascinated with, and just making sure I can see the structure of what kids are going to be able to access, some of the activities, exercises, stock market, those types of things. But I'm engaged that we are giving the tools for them to be able to use. That's a great content, so it'll tie right into financial literacy that's coming next.
I'd be happy to give you this copy right now.
That's a great Christmas gift. Yeah, or early, late, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
You'll have to arm wrestle Mr. Zenobia for it, I think. No?
I have an extra as well. You can both have one.
No, thank you.
Sure.
Both of these classes, as graduation requirements, we have some kids who will take the semester class and then they will take the AP class. You're shaking your head no.
Most don't, at least for economics. Most will either take AP or regular econ. There are a few that might, take econ as a junior and then AP as a senior.
Same.
Yeah, to my knowledge, at least for my students at South, I don't know if things go differently at other schools, but I have not heard of that being the case of a student taking Gov and then switching to AP Gov beyond someone switching at the beginning of the
Not
year.
switching, but actually taking it
No,
later.
that's not common practice. I don't know of students who do that.
I might know of one.
You do.
But I think it's a positive. I'm not saying that they would start in a semester and then finish out in AP, because that's not the way it's paced. I understand that. But I do think there's a benefit in having this book shared across the two classes. I think one of the concerns we had when we were first looking at the Abernathy book is that maybe the reading wasn't at the level that we thought an AP would be. But from what I'm hearing from students across all three high schools is that actually makes the material much easier to consume, and that just focused on the content and not so much trying to grind through the textbook. So I think it was the right choice. The SCOTUS cases that were the supplement for the AP, is that something that's also part of the regular course, or is it just embedded in the text?
So we do have some SCOTUS cases that we've gone over. I know, at least for me personally, when we do go through the curricular rewrite, I'm going to want to have a focus on being able to look at court cases and pull understanding out of them. I think that we could probably distill it down to a few less than what the AP requires. The AP has further requirements than what we may have. But some of those most premier cases that we have in Gov that guide the way our society functions, I do think it would be important for them to have that understanding, and I would encourage our use of it, but maybe not in full, but in parts, and integrating it with our curriculum.
So if we purchase a supplement, or at least add on the SCOTUS supplement for AP or not?
I think AP did, yes. We are
But we
not
don't do that
purchasing
for-
it for
okay.
ours.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Thank you. I'm not seeing anything more.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. All right, in a similar vein, I guess, but a different topic, we're moving on to talk about the changes to the financial literacy requirement.
So as I kind of joked earlier, Laura Ryan is just here for the long haul tonight. So she has some updates to share with you and can take it from there.
Set up here. Introduce Molly Hoppenschild, our Director of Career Technical Education. Coordinator, sorry. Okay, so Molly and I are here to present the information that's coming down to us from DPI surrounding the new state law known as Act 60. The new law here, is this yours? Oh, you can read it. I don't think that I need to read it out loud, but this is the actual wording of Wisconsin Act 60 that requires all high school students, beginning with the class of 2028, so our incoming freshmen next year, are required to take a 0.5 credit of personal financial literacy. The financial literacy or personal finance class must be a standalone. But we have good news, and we already offer this class in SDW.
So just a little bit, it's like the Zoom, but not. All right, a little bit about the current status. Currently, we offer a class called Personal Financial Planning. It is a 0.5 credit course that's in our business education area. Right now, approximately 1/3 of our students already take this course as part of their high school career. The course already is aligned to the 6 standards of financial literacy that the DPI has set out as part of the state requirement. And you can see the 6 standards right there. So what does it mean?
Okay, so what does this mean for us? So you can see here, this is right now our graduation requirements. So it will require us to make a small change in our graduation policy. Right now, students take 9.5 elective credits. This change will decrease that 9.5 to 9 credits. And then similar to where you see health 0.5, we would imagine then it would say personal finance 0.5, then electives 9. Not increasing the total at all, but the total would be 25 credits would remain the same.
So some next steps for this team. Number one, as the DPI continues to send us guidelines, just to continue to look at those and make sure we're following what they're suggesting and asking. That includes looking at staffing for this new change. It would require a revision in the graduation policy, as Laura just stated. As a result, we would adjust the course guide to indicate that that is a required course, as well as the student course planners to plan for the fact that this would be part of their high school career. Then in the summer, we would meet as a curricular team to look at the current UBD, make sure that it is viable and accurate to the state standards, and then look at the resources that exist. We currently use all free resources, and the awesome part is people are just like creating and giving more and more resources. So you probably heard of Money Smart, Next Gen Personal Finance. We keep getting new resources given to us, so it's a great thing. They're all coming from really great sources that we can use to make sure that we're having a really great experience for our students in this content area. And the last piece is just to continue to monitor that staffing as students are now required to take it as they move on up.
They will have 4 years to take the course. They can take it any time in their high school career. So right now, we don't know what kind of change that will make to any of our FTEs or staffing implications. For next year, it did not move anything. Questions?
Maybe just to ground everybody, what percentage of our students already take financial literacy?
1/3.
1/3.
Oh, you said that, yeah.
They graduate with it. 1/3 of them graduate with it, yes.
How many of the 25 credits for graduation can be taken? I know we have the summer start option now as well, but how many can be taken before they get to high school?
Like biology, Spanish.
Is there a limit in how many credits can be earned before high school?
I don't think so, not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
Ed.
Carrie.
So it's very interesting. I started teaching personal finance at Carroll University this spring. I had a great little birdie at Waukesha South that introduced me to Next Gen Personal Finance, which I will tell you is a gem of a tool. So I am teaching seniors in college that do not have any idea, and I want to be very soft about this, they do not know. And so my caution is making sure that when we're building the syllabus and we're taking a look at it, that we're very structured about the practical life skills that they need to have on just basic understanding from Form W-4 to shows up on W-2, which links to your 1040. The different pieces to that I have been really challenged about. I think there's a large gap with our students. I did, with my daughters, give them the option to take personal finance or accounting. Obviously, personal finance is a semester, accounting was a year, and none of them wanted to be accountants. I know, I'm still hard pressed on that. But based on their experience and roll forward, I will tell you, it was not rigorous enough. It did not prepare them for what that life is after. And so I'm obviously going to be very invested as to how we take a look at this, but it needs to have more rigor than I think what we're currently doing, and a little bit more of a harder lesson. I've looked at Money Smart as well. I did not like that as much as I liked the Next Gen. It's phenomenal and relatable and relevant to walking them all the way through that. So I'm going to be pretty excited to see how and where this rolls out. But from that standpoint, is even taking a look at the DPI standards right now, we are doing our students no services at all if we don't revamp what we're offering. So I'm very happy to see that this is now a requirement. I think it's well needed. And I'm pretty passionate about the subject, so.
With resources being shared or offered to us, how long has it been since, or when was the last time the syllabus for this class was reviewed and approved?
Most likely 2015, with the adjustments to the headings for the standards, because all they did was tweak those in 2019.
So is that part of the plan with the work that you're doing in the summer that, okay,
100%, yes.
okay. Because I think consistency across the district is really important, and
So I
seem like there's some differences in terms of what kids are exposed to.
Yeah, and so this is actually the perfect opportunity for us. Sometimes it's hard to get electives into this curriculum design cycle, and this is the perfect opportunity. And I think Ms. Sklowski just took what we've already been discussing about it needs to be more rigorous.
Anybody else? Yep, Mr. Zenobia.
Just one question. I know they outline, 6 areas. Currently in what we offer, is there any idea of how those are currently weighted? Is there importance placed on, I mean, they're broad, but is there more importance placed on any of those areas? It's pretty general, okay.
I don't think that there's any one that outweighs the other. If anything, maybe the education employment one piece might be a tad smaller because of academic and career planning. They have talked about career pathways and looking at what careers, income looks like. So that would probably be the only one that might shrink a little just based on that.
Okay. Thank you.
So what kind of timeline are we looking at as far as what's next?
So we're thinking that we are coming back next month with the wording for the policy change, with the credit change. And then we will work to get together some dates on Molly's going to go to CISA with one of our personal finance teachers and learn kind of the nuances of the new law and the new standards and what they can provide to help us with some professional learning. When is that? In
May 21st.
And then we will start to put together a team of these teachers to work on the curriculum in spring and summer.
Okay. Any other questions? I'm not seeing any. I think we're all just really happy to see this move
I think
forward.
everybody is.
Before I get up, I'll just remind you tomorrow at WCTC, we are hosting our Reality Day. I did send just brief information, so if you can stop out, it's a wonderful day. I love the comments that the kids really do get reality checks. But if you can stop out, we're there, 9:30 to between 9:30 and 1. It'd be awesome to see you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Molly.
All right, thank you. Nope. Thank you, Molly. All right, we covered our KPI in student services earlier tonight, so we're moving into our other business. And the first one is a summer school update.
So last month, you had approved the summer school program that we had put out. Thank you, everyone. And there were a few follow-up questions. And so I just wanted to come back and share some of those answers. Again, I also wanted to highlight where summer school is taking place and at these locations, and then that we have also those high school classes that are Get Ahead classes. And then we have the classes for elementary and middle school. We had shared in our course outline some of the get-aheads. And so that's what I just wanted to really focus in on tonight. We had some questions around what are the get-ahead classes, which ties into our most recent conversation around personal finance. Right now, our get-ahead classes are creative writing, social studies. You can see there's a few that students can choose from, whether it's economics, government, obviously junior or seniors, standing only. We have science, forensic science, and then some health and phy-ed courses that are offered in the summer for that get-ahead opportunity. As Laura and I had talked about the financial literacy class, we had talked about obviously any ideas and wonderings that could possibly tie right into some of these get-ahead offerings, but something we'll talk about each year as we put together that summer school program. But I just wanted to come back and just share that information and those details with the group, but also publicize, sign up early whenever you can, and there's lots of offerings.
What does the communication look like for students as far as how they become aware of this?
Yeah, I know that we have counselors that are, as they meet with students, there's been some pieces to families, but I'd have to look to Laura from the school level.
Are you talking specifically about the personal finance class or about the?
Any of the get ahead and other opportunities?
I'm assuming that they go out in the announcements in each of the middle school and high school announcements.
We can do a double check and just put that in our all admin communication to make sure that that's, communicated regularly, not just once a month or once right before summer school.
Incoming freshmen would be able to take some of these classes as
Yes.
well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? You good? I'm not seeing any. I think everybody's satisfied. Okay, should we keep going?
We can.
Okay, all right. Then we'll have an update on the new teacher orientation.
Yeah, this is one of the highlights. Oftentimes we talk about teachers, and let me just get off the, and what we're doing to support them, whether they're veteran teachers or new teachers. And so we thought this was a nice opportunity to bring forward just all that we do around our new teacher orientation. There's so much thought and organization around our program that includes mentors that I think we'd be remiss to not highlight it and to share. Laura, as part of her new role, has really taken on the lead of this, and we were sitting down and she was super excited about some of the feedback that she was getting. I'm like, we have to share this, because it was really right from the teacher's mouths, just like the previous comments from the students. And so we have Laura Ryan here, as well as Melissa Yao, who've just both done a tremendous job. Teaching and learning as a whole always work together around the new teacher orientation, but it extends much further into that mentoring program. So they're here tonight to talk about it, and I can't say enough good things about just all the work that they've put into this for this current year, but also we're already planning for next year.
Thank you. So wrapping up my last presentation here, we are very excited to end on such a positive note. And Melissa and I are going to share the supports that we do have, that the School District of Waukesha has in place for our new hires, and a little bit about our teacher mentor program and about the feedback that we have received. So this, you can see this little graphic here shows that we have hired a total of 141 teachers, new hires this school year. Now that might fluctuate a little bit every week, but pretty much about 70 elementary, 29 middle school, and 42 high school teachers this year were new hires. We also then have 121 veteran teachers who are trained as mentors. So we partner with CISA One, and they provide us some consulting and some training for a mentor program, which is mandated by the state, that new hires are provided a mentor. Our veteran teachers who volunteer to be mentors go through a one-day training in the summer through CISA, and then they have 4 sessions throughout the year that they continue the professional learning. They're virtual, online, and they join them, and we do a lot of really cool breakout sessions, but that's all led by CISA in coaching and mentoring young teachers, and that's for our mentors only. One of the things that our mentors do is they meet with our mentees, at least they're required to meet at least twice a month with their mentees to cover topics that a new teacher would need to know. However, you'll see in a minute some testimony that they are meeting way more than just twice a month with their mentors, mentees.
All right, so in the School District of Waukesha, we really want to wrap around our new teachers. And that starts at the moment of hiring with onboarding, where the new hire meets with HR. They then get information around benefits, their technology, and get some training on that. Then in August, we have 2 full days of new teacher training. They also receive a mentor. And then throughout the year, we have 5 different evenings of new teacher support sessions. And then in our buildings, we also have coaching that happens that are there for people to partner with the teachers to really support them in implementation of new curriculum, help to give them feedback, and just really there to support them in all the areas that they might be needing.
So we recently surveyed our new teachers who have a mentor. One of the questions, we'll go over a couple of the questions. One of the questions we asked them was, how helpful has your mentor been with your transition into School District of Waukesha? You can see from this graph that 82% of them, 83% almost, have said that their mentor has been very helpful. We have a small percent that said somewhat helpful, and we had one new teacher respond, not helpful. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to show you this video. This video is a pairing of a secondary, high school actually, secondary new business teacher, a brand new to the profession hire, and then a veteran teacher who is his mentor. We asked him to keep it to 2 minutes. Apologies, it's 3 minutes, but we just think there's some really good things that they say that we can hear from them.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, hello, I'm Mr. Zisk.
Oh, Mr. Fontaine, Mr. Sisk's mentor.
Hi, Mr. Sisk's first time class. My name is Mr. Sisk, and I work here at Waukesha West High School for the School District of Waukesha, and I'm really proud to have a mentor that's right across the hallway and can always help me. Now, no matter what day it is, I know I can find him, and I know that he will help me with any issue I have, including Infinite Campus, all of the grading policies, and all the behavioral issues. Now, Mr. Fontaine, for me, is an expert in everything Waukesha West. I'm really proud to have someone like him who's always willing to stop by and help.
Hello again, I'm Eric. I've been at West for a few years here, and this year I was asked to be Mr. Sis Devante's mentor. I was a little concerned in the beginning because I was a mentor of a non-math teacher. He was a business teacher. So I think I was a little concerned, but after actually observing, I think it really was a good thing. The beginning of the year was all just getting him, setting up everything. He's got his grade book we had to go through, got to get the BB9 set up, got a calendar set up. So the first month was just tons and tons of questions, the stuff that I take for granted, just stuff that I know that as a new teacher, it's just overwhelming. So in the beginning, I think we just sat down. The first couple weeks I was in his classroom every morning and just stopping by to check in and say, hey, how's it going? Questions, anything coming up you need some help with? Then after a while, after the first month, I'd get into the room and do a little observation. And at that point, I realized it was probably more beneficial to the program to me be with not a math teacher. I didn't concentrate on the math. I concentrated on his teaching. I concentrated on what he was saying, what he was doing, what the students are doing. And then that would allow me to just go back with him and say, hey, maybe you should work on this or that, and things that he would take to heart. And we were just honest with each other, and everything went great. And then we'd meet our monthly meetings. We'd have a lunch together, talk about stuff. I'd get in his room some more, and he's a great teacher. Great teacher. I'm glad he's here. And now I just check in with him when stuff's coming up. I should remind him about things like entering grades, make sure they're on time, make sure the second semester's set up right, conferences, getting all that set up. And at this point, he's just freely rolling around and everything's working great for him. He knows he can stop down. He stops down, so I'll just say, hey, we talk about stuff. He has a question. I'll stop down at least once a week or so, just say, hey, what's going on? Do you need anything? And it was a great opportunity for me to be able to do this. And I look forward to working with Devontae for the rest of this year and of next year. And I think this is a great program, one that might help us retain our teachers. And I think that's like a really important thing. Any questions, want to meet with us or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to either one of us. Thanks for watching this.
So I think what you can hear is, not only do we provide the support for our new teachers, new hires who need it, but there's an investment from our veteran teachers and a focus not just on like the logistics or the things that a teacher has to do, but really building a relationship around the art of teaching. And like he said at the end, retaining teachers, and I've had some other mentored teachers, veteran teachers say to me, like, this is the one thing where I feel like I can give back to my profession and really help build the passion that these veteran teachers feel, in the new hires.
She did start talking.
All right. You heard a little bit earlier about talking about how we want to wrap around our teachers. One thing here in the School District of Waukesha that we do have is we believe in learning. We want our educators to be here and be continuous learners themselves. So we do offer TDP credits, and it's one way that people can stay engaged in learning through some multiple opportunities. So people can choose pathways that they want to go on. We offer classes related to the various content areas, or if they're in student services, there are offerings around student services, literacy, math, engaging students, just all different areas. And we took a look this year and wanted to improve our TDPs and offerings for our new teachers. And so when teachers start here in the School District of Waukesha and they have those 2 new teacher days, they can now earn 1 TDP credit for attending those 2 full days of training. So really making sure that the teachers understand those curricular resources, the structures that are in place, what supports are there, and they can earn that first credit. Another opportunity that our teachers have to earn a TDP credit are 5 nights of new teacher support sessions. And these sessions, each night has a different theme. They're offered every other month. So we would have one in October, then we would have one in December, and so every other month they have a class that they go to. And the first topic was all around understanding educator effectiveness. Every teacher is engaged in that process through self-evaluation, getting feedback from their administrator, and how are they wanting to improve themselves and set goals around student achievement. The second topic was all around understanding special education and how we can best all support our students who might have IEPs and that we all work with. The third topic was understanding our multilingual learners and how we can provide scaffolds and support so that they can access the rigor of the standard. Coming up this month, we have a session all around student engagement. And so how can we engage students in that rigor of the standard and really make sure that they are cognitively engaged in the classroom, not just sitting there compliant. And then our final session is all around celebrating our new teachers. So they will get an opportunity to also see the feedback that they provided us and hear how are we going to use that feedback to make things better for the next groups that we have coming in. And so we wanted you to hear from another teacher just about how they feel about these opportunities of learning that we have here in the School District of Waukesha.
Hello, my name is Beth Garvey. I am a new teacher here in the School District of Waukesha. I am teaching second grade at Lowell Elementary, specializing in literacy. Even though it's my first year here in the School District of Waukesha, I am actually on my 20th year of teaching. I chose the School District of Waukesha, and I am so happy that I did. I absolutely am loving the energy that this district has and the organization that this district has. Starting out with all of the learning opportunities that are given to teachers, even seasoned teachers. So from the new teacher support sessions to having a mentor, to having amazing literacy and math coaches, and those TDP courses, where I this year was able to enroll in a 5-credit reading recovery course, which has been so beneficial. I've already taken on 2 students through the reading recovery program. And just, it has helped perfect my craft as a reading teacher. So it's ultimately all about the students, that they're benefiting from this teacher learning opportunities that you are giving to all of us. So I am so happy I made the choice to come here, and I want to just thank you for providing all of these amazing learning opportunities, and I am excited to continue to grow here in the School District of Waukesha. Thank you.
So I think it's exciting not to hear only from a new teacher, but someone who's chose the School District of Waukesha after being in education for 20 years and feels like they have the opportunity to grow and learn here in the district. I think that that is a huge celebration. So we, in surveying our teachers, one of the questions we asked them is, what did you find most helpful? And so above this line, you see some positive trends of things that were said. They found that the other teachers here in the district are just amazing and really supportive of them. They also found that our administrators and coaches are there to support them, that they get feedback and just feel all around supported from them. And then they mentioned students and families, that they just love working with our families. And then they also appreciated having a mentor. Some areas that are below the line are the opportunity to learn about benefits. Teachers came up multiple times that they wanted to really understand those options better of what those benefits look like here in the district. Grading and reporting was another area that they felt like they needed more information on to be even more successful, giving feedback to our students. And then supports for serving students with special needs. So those are 3 areas that we have already gotten started of working on. So one of the things that I said earlier was the first opportunity for students, for teachers when they enter the district, is that onboarding. And there was actually a meeting today between teaching and learning, HR, the business office, technology, about really revamping and how we can do a better job of onboarding and what that would look like. So we're taking the teachers' feedback in areas that they thought that we could grow to better support them, and making those changes for our next year's educators who will be joining us.
Another question we asked on the survey is, what is the best part about working in School District of Waukesha? And you saw some of the things maybe on the themes about supportive colleagues and supportive administrators. We just grabbed 3 quotes from each level that we wanted to share with you. So first, the elementary, the best part of my school is the empowerment from my administration. I feel valued by my principal and coaches. They trust me and come to me for input. I've never felt so appreciated and seen. From a middle school teacher, I very much appreciate the system-wide commitment to gradual release of responsibility to AVID and to the middle school tenants. There is evidence of these pieces woven into all professional development, professional expectations, et cetera. I feel that there's a collective commitment to excellence across my building and among district leaders. And from a high school teacher, staff network and support, even though buildings are big and there's a lot of people, having a small network of coworkers that regularly check in with me and offer support has been great. Also, having support, feedback, and understanding of admin has been amazing. And there were many comments, narratives from these new teachers that named and shouted out specific teachers, their mentors sometimes they're just their next door neighbor, shouted out. I think every building had an administrator, if not several administrators, and their coaches shouted out specifically. So I'll be sharing that with them as well, so they know that. But I think it's a true testimony to the amazing people that we do have here, because I think it's common. Well, it was at least in the 23 years that I was in the classroom, is, there's this like push and pull between teachers and administrators, and in all of these comments was this how supported they feel from their administrators and their coaches in the building.
All right, so our next steps. As you already talked about a little bit about using the feedback from our teachers and new educators in our system. We're really looking at those theme areas to improve upon, and we're using that to plan for next year at the district and building levels. We want to continue to increase the number of trained mentors in each building. And so that is a special part of Laura's job, and really working with CISA and getting our mentors trained, so that when new people come on, that we have those mentors there, because we love our mentors that we currently have, but we also don't want to burn anyone out, and we want to make sure that we can support everyone in this district with a mentor. And then most importantly, we want to celebrate our new teachers. A really exciting statistic in my mind is as you saw on the first screen, we had a large number of new educators joining us this year. But it was also the largest percentage of new educators who joined in on the new teacher days and at our support sessions. So the people who are joining us truly are investing right from the start, and that's just a really huge celebration that we have. So not only do we sometimes send them letters or make sure that our times when we're together, that we're getting to know each other and celebrating them and having time for them to share and listening to them. We want to take some special dedicated time to them on this last session in May, and really celebrate them and thank them for being in the school district of Waukesha, and want them to know that we really want them to continue here investing in our students.
Just want to quick add a couple things about the mentor program. Is one of the things that we ask our principals to do when they're hiring new hires is to match them to someone in their building who has been a trained mentor, or ask some more teachers, some veteran teachers, to be trained. We really look for teachers who, I use the term, who have good teaching habits that we would like others to emulate. And then our mentors can have up to 2 mentees. So some of our mentors only have 1, some of our mentors have 2. And then our mentors are compensated. There's a stipend for being a mentor and having 1 or 2 mentees. And another thing that we want to do is celebrate not just our new teachers, but our mentors as well. And so finding ways to do that as well.
What questions do you have for us?
Mrs. Kozlowski.
This is really fantastic. When we talk, there's so much that you hear from outside on just wanting to speak negatively. But what we hear, we do hear so much of the value and the love and the hardworking teachers who actually love working here, love their job, love their coworkers. And one of the efforts to talk about on how we're dealing with teacher retention and making sure that we are dedicating time for growth and analysis and discussion and collaboration is fascinating. And I think this is well received. I'm listening to this, and it's clearly well received I like to hear, I like to see it, I think there should be more of. But these are the things as a district that we celebrate, because this is a great district. This is a great place to work. This is great people, great students, great families. And those are the discussions that we need to be having more. I appreciate that. I thought this was a great presentation and a really nice highlight for what we're doing to really make a difference, not only with those that we love on as our teachers, but also having strong teachers gives us strong students and families. So this was great.
Thank you.
I just want to add on to that. I know Ms. Kozlowski and I have visited a lot of the schools, as other board members have, but I try to get in quite a bit like you do. And, because I know this is where the magic happens. These are the boots on the ground. I mean, teachers, of course, being a former teacher myself, I know that this is where the magic happens. And when I visit our schools throughout the district, the energy and the positivity is incredible. I mean, they're so willing to just open up and say how they're having a great year. A lot of the new teachers, mirror what was set up there, that they came here, they're so proud to be here, they love the structure, they love the curriculum, they love the families and students. I mean, the positive energy is just incredible whenever I visit the schools, and even functions I've been to, plays and, different events. There's just an energy that I feel that I feel like it's different this year. I don't know, maybe because of all the extra efforts that you have all put into making them feel connected and, engaged, and they're just excited to be here, and I'm excited to see that. Thank you for all you do.
Yes, I'm just curious, with the new teacher mentor relationship, I'm sure either one can reach out to the other at any time they want. I'm curious are they required by the district to touch base on a regular basis, and does the district also actually schedule or organize that, or is that up to the mentor mentees?
We begin the year by scheduling it, like we have them come in on one of the original days, and then we have them meet and go through things. The requirement on the end of being a mentor is they have to meet with them at least twice a month, and there's a mentor log that basically sketches out the common things that a new teacher would need to know in October, in November, in December, and it's a list of, these would be good things to talk to your mentee about during the time. However, please let your mentee direct if they have other needs, please let them direct, and it's a log that they complete and turn into me.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Zenobia.
I just wanted to say it was an excellent presentation. It was really good to hear all the positives that were described, and some of the board members already spoke to that. But it is very positive to hear, especially that last point that you made, Mrs. Yao, about how many teachers that are new are taking the supports and the training that's offered and are engaging. So to see that trend is, I thought, really wrapped it up nicely. So
It's amazing.
that was all excellent to hear. So very proud of our staff and everyone's hard work. Thank you.
And just anecdotally, I think I want to, this isn't about just being a one-year program, right? I worked with a teacher last year who was not new to teaching, but new to our district, and I think was overwhelmed with everything that he had to change in his practice, just being in a new district, right, and was learning. And this year feels much more grounded and is now taking these TDP courses that we offer and is now engaging in a lot more professional development. And so sometimes, especially being a first-year teacher, you're not ready for some of this stuff. You're just not there. You're surviving. But we offer this, for several years, and there's always these opportunities to learn and grow.
And they're there for not just our new teachers, but all teachers, and that's something really exciting too that we have worked on, is really trying to look at our TDP classes and not just offer 1 credit, but offer half credit and 0.5 credits, because not everybody can make a 4-night commitment, but some people can make a 1-night commitment, and we really do work with people who are learners. So not just our new educators, but people who have been here in the district too. So it's just really a neat culture that our teachers bring to us.
I think in the present environment, there's just a lot of options on the table for our professional educators, so it's great to see that so many have chosen us, and I appreciate the effort that you all are putting in to make sure that they have a great onboarding experience and that they're staying, because we want to keep them for a long time. So I think those relationships are really important, and in my own professional experience, I know that onboarding experience is so critically important, and though even those first few months really make all the difference and take a lot of that stress and burden off of people as they're trying to acclimate to the new environment. So that's important, and then also continuing the check-ins and making sure that they feel like they have people they can lean on and someone who can help answer those questions. So you've obviously multiplied and extended the ability for the district to serve and reach those individuals in a significant way. So thank you for all that you've done with all of that. Anything else? All right. Well, we have reached the end of our agenda. Mrs. Ryan is probably ready to go home. So thank you, everybody. I think we were pretty efficient tonight, covered quite a few things. So I appreciate everybody being prepared. Are there any recommendations for future meetings? Mr. Browski?
Yes, I just thought as a bit of a follow-up to our action and direction that the personalized learning programs are going, if it might be good for STEM to give an update on just enrollment and what families have maybe decided to go there.
That's a good idea. I know we have, is there a plan to talk about enrollment?
Mr. Clark has been planning an overall enrollment look that we've been debating, and Ms. Gunnerman too. We're trying to figure out if that belongs in F&F or in student services, and that's a little bit of a new experience for us now with student services. A lot of things that used to be in F&F could go here. So we were planning that for May, I think, at this point, just debating what committee to put it in.
Okay.
But we could certainly invite board members to it, or we could do it in multiple spots. I mean, we can talk about that.
Why don't we talk about that? Because it might make sense to take it in a couple different places if the focus is a bit different. If we're talking about curriculum and the choice of curriculum versus just the movement of students.
And that's kind of what we've talked about too, is like, it's often gone to F&F because of the contractual piece and the budget, but student services typically talks about enrollment and that whole process, so that might be a joint effort, so we can talk more about it.
Okay.
And then specific to those pieces.
Yeah, wherever it fits best,
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we are scheduled to have our next Teaching and Learning Committee meeting on your calendar for April 9th, but I would just like everybody, Tuesday, April 9th. But because we have so many meetings that week, and we also have the WEF Evening for Education that week as well, I think we're going to reach out to see if there might be an alternative date. But for now, it is on the calendar for Tuesday, April 9th, with the possibility of a reschedule. Okay. All right. That concludes our meeting for tonight. Thank you, everybody.